At the turn of the 20th century, College Board was founded to create a unified college entrance exam. In the year 1926, they created the SAT. The SAT's purpose was to test students for their readiness for college. And by 1935, Harvard University required all students to submit their SAT scores. However, in recent years, many top colleges like Stanford, University of Chicago, and UC Berkeley have dropped their SAT requirements. My name is Tyler Anderson.
My name is Pedro Pessoa.
My name is Theodore Blake.
And my name is Benjamin Swan. To go off of what Tyler said, big schools such as Stanford and University of Chicago have been slowly waiving their SAT requirements. This begs the question, why have they been doing so? One reason is the effects on these SAT scores. Because of these scores, the SAT has slowly becoming an ineffective test.
Starting off with first-generation Americans, we have this graph from Louisiana State University. Up to the top left, we have MPS, which stands for Matriculation Point Scores. Up top, we have the numbers, right beside MPS, which is the student scores. With the 1 is 75 to 100% in the SAT. 2 over 1, we have 68 to 74% in the SAT. 2 over 2, we have 60 to 67% in the SAT. 3, we have 50 to 59% in the SAT. And finally, we have the F, which stands for fail. E1 stands for First English Language Students. And the E2, we have English Second Language Students. As we can see, in the bottom section, there's a lot more inconsistency in the grades and in the scores of the students. Up top, it's a lot more consistency, and you can see that the numbers all carry along. This demonstrates a big gap between both English First Language and English Second Language. First generation Americans. It is clear from the results that some students who initially presented an underprepared academic profile nevertheless managed to pass and even to perform above average levels. This presents a profile for our student selections. The term potential can properly be applied to these students and the challenge confronting university selections. The procedure is to identify those students that have the potential to pass.
Thank you, Pedro. Of the many effects on students' SAT scores, one of them is the family's socioeconomic status. The more money a student's family makes, the better they do on average. In every section, reading, grammar, and math, these students are performing higher. As you can see here, in College Board's 2022 total SAT report, students whose family makes $110,000 a year are on average performing 250 points higher than a student whose family makes $51,000 or under. Because, as Census.gov says, the average household income is $70,000 a year, a large portion of these students are at a gap. This perceived gap related to income makes SAT an ineffective test. A reason for this gap in testing is the cost of studying tools. Online programs cost amounts that students cannot afford, let alone the cost of an in-person tutor. Prep Scholar, a popular website for finding SAT study tools, gives these costs. As seen here, online programs cost $100 to $1,400 per course, while one-on-one tutoring can cost up to $1,600. Unprepared for this test, these low socioeconomic status students are receiving lower scores than their higher status peers.
So as many students are taking the SAT, they often feel stressed out because they often have high expectations among themselves and from others among them. As you can see from this graph, it shows that family members and parents are 39% feel like pressure. Also 39% from their friends, and then 26% from teachers and guidance counselors, 1% from other people, and 87% from their own standards, and 1% from college admissions. Students have high expectations from other students, from others and themselves, because they either want to do well on the SAT or someone is giving them pressure to do well instead of doing the best that they can do. On average, students are more comfortable taking the SAT on a computer than taking it on, they're actually more comfortable taking it on paper than on a computer. Studies have shown that the downside of computer after testing is that it can be stressful to the test taker, and traditionally tests are already taken in stressful situations like educational systems, or getting a job. peer test in your systems as pressure because many adults in educational systems can test to see if they really do good enough instead of doing the best of their ability. There are different parts of stress. The two most common reasons for stress are metacognition and obsessive compulsion thoughts. So metacognition is an awareness and understanding of one's own thought process. So either they don't know what's going to be on the SAT, and then they wonder if they're studying the right material or not. And I'm using self-doubt themselves because they won't know what is if they did the best that they can do, and they don't any have a positive attitude, or else they won't do as good as they hoped. Yeah, another part of stress are obsessive compulsive thoughts, which are patterns of unwanted thoughts and fears that can lead them to do repetitive behaviors. There are studies that have shown that obsessive compulsion thoughts tend to have an urge to neutralize depressed moods and stress in a week immediately before an exam period. Students get overwhelmed when they take the SAT, and then they will have the low self-esteem because they are going to get the score as they wanted.
SAT scores have played a major role in college admissions for decades now, and because of this, students look at the average SAT scores in many colleges. And many of these colleges have very high SAT scores, which makes students fear that they will get rejected, even if they have great extracurriculars and great course loads. And many times, these students' fears are correct. As you can see from this graph, top universities have SAT scores in the 1500s, which is a very hard task for many students to achieve. Because of this, they do not apply. And even if they do apply, they usually get rejected because colleges care very much about their perceived prestige. The main way that colleges look at their prestige is through the U.S. World in News college ranking that comes out each year, where the SAT and ACT play about a 5% role in it. And many times, these colleges will reject great students because they want to keep their rankings high. Princeton University, MIT, and Harvard all have SAT scores that are on average above 1,500.
So the effects of stress on the SAT are low levels of diversity, high cost tuition for low-income students, and low scholarships. Because of the outside factors on SAT, there are many negative effects for students. Even students with social lives and living conditions can be changed. And the effects such as higher college costs and lower diversity, they pull away from the college experience. As colleges seek to search for new ways to format, there are a few options that could help.
Now for the solutions and limitations. The first point for the solution, we have to make the test optional. This would optimize schools. Another point is to make the test in other languages, such as the reading section and writing section. Not just that, but College Board could show more support for the students. Now, for limitations, we have that this does not solve the problem of standardized testing. It's still an issue. Not just that, but there's still a gap, and it's very hard to fill. And last but not least, we have time and money. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Oh, you're actually on camera. We're gonna start down at this end because Theodore's very excited about this. If you had another team member, a fifth team member, what perspective or limitation could they have reached that would have made a useful contribution to the project?
So if we had another person to be in our group, we would talk about lower economic status, because we talk about low economic status because they will also show that they often they often show stress because they don't know exactly what income they're gonna get, and they just.
Okay. Next up. Reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem that you identified?
For me personally, Tyler had the greatest impact on my perspective and on the group. He established everything well together and really put everything clean and complete for everybody to understand.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I'm scribbling down. All right, Tyler. What's an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided not to use in your presentation and why?
Ben had information on other different types of tests that we could use. So there's the ACT and then other more personality-based tests that colleges could use for college admissions, but we didn't use it because it didn't fit as much in on whether the SAT is effective and more fit into whether it's effective compared to other things.
Okay, thank you. And last up, Benjamin. Describe an argument from one of your peers' individual reports that makes you think differently about your team's overall solution.
Well, the information that Pedro had when we were talking back helped me understand more of mine, because his argument of first-generation Americans doing lower also helped with mine on income, because many first-generation Americans have lower economic status than others.
You guys are